Hey guys, EBPMAN here. Now in today's video, we're taking a look at the MagicCyle Deer. It is what they consider the SUV of bikes. It has fantastic capacity. We're talking a 400-pound total load capacity, and it just has one of the best suspensions that we've seen on an e-bike in a very long time. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so the powertrain for this bike is a 750-watt brushless motor with an IP55 rating, which is going to be really good and what you'd find in the industry. The tires themselves are 26x4 Kenda tires that give a delicious ride. Combined with the suspension system that you're going to see, this thing is a fantastic cruiser. But when you look at the back of this area here, you'll notice that I would say the carrying rack is larger than some of the racks that we've seen before, and that's because this thing has a capacity that far exceeds any of the bikes that we reviewed on the channel. Literally, this is a 400-pound total capacity, cargo capacity bike, which is pretty substantial, right? Now, in addition to that, you do have in the back a marker, right? That's gonna give whoever is following you a really good view that you are on the road in day and at night. And then it has a Shimano 7-speed gear shift system, which is, again, very responsive as we were riding it. Really loved the way that it's shifted gears, and the power to human power ratio is really comfortable. It doesn't leap out. It basically gradually contributes power and gives you some really good speed. Now the spokes themselves, you see two different spoke differences. In the very front you have a 13 gauge spoke system, and in the back you have a 12 gauge spoke system. Now, one of the things that sets this bike apart is the suspension and the fact that it has rear suspension that you see right there. You see that little shock that you see in that area right there? That is a shock system that gives this bike a really, really nice ride. So the fat tires, including that suspension, hydraulic in the back, also hydraulic front in the fork in the front, gives this thing a very, very comfortable ride. And when you're riding it, the way the seat sits and also the steering, which is naturally higher, it's raised up, so it's not going down, gives you a really nice posture, and I found it very comfortable to ride. The seat itself, the saddle that you see right there, is also wide. It's comfortable. It gives you a great ride, and it's fully adjustable. So once you take this bike out, you can adjust it without requiring any tools. This gives you another view of the saddle itself, and you can see the saddle very wide in the back, really comfortable to ride. And like I said, this is going to be durable for long distances. Now, we said that this has a 750-watt powertrain. It has a great suspension system and ride, and I got to tell you that the range on this bike is also pretty spectacular. You're looking at anywhere from 60 to 80-mile range. And again, that's going to vary based on weather conditions, your weight, the incline of the surface that you're riding. So all these things combined give you a fantastic experience. Now the charging port for the battery is found here. The battery is removable, and it has a key system that we'll see on the other side, but the key isn't required to turn on the bike or use any of the power. It's literally just to be able to remove the battery, and here's a little knob right here that pops the battery out. Now in the front and in the back of the bike, you do have worry-free fenders. These fenders are wide. They are long too, which means that you're not going to get any kind of mud flipping up. I've been actually running this in snowy conditions here in Chicago and haven't seen any kind of wet, dirt, anything getting on my jeans or my gym shoes, especially because of how the fenders both in front and the back are designed. They give you so much coverage. Now the other thing that you'll notice is that your fork front suspension is hydraulic. It's lockable, it's adjustable, gives you great riding experience. The bike does have a front-facing LED lamp, very bright, and you can see how powerful it is. And you can also see that the treads on this bike give you a real nice grippy surface. So I've been able to ride this in the snow and also snowy terrain with the suspension system that it has, and have had no slippage issues at all. Now, cable management for this bike is done nicely. There's a lot of cables coming through this area here. Everything is bound and tucked together really nicely and does hide itself or snakes into the actual bike itself. So while it seems like there's a lot going on over here, really it hides into the frame and disappears completely. Now the bike has dual hydraulic brakes in front and in back, has your control cluster here, is really easy to access.
You have to shift gears, you have the button here. To reduce the gears, you have a button here, and in the middle, you have the information control for this display. That's probably the only negative that I would give it. I really didn't find myself pushing this button, the information display, which switches the screen over, because I was hitting this button instead of the down. So I wish this button was configured differently. So plus, minus, and then information on the bottom, or display control, which is what I find in many bikes, or even tucking it away somewhere else, because when I'm riding, I'm not really switching that much. I'm really using the pedal assist modes is what I change. Here at the very top you have your power, and then as you can see here in the display, there is a lot going on here, right? So I love the way that this display is just laid out. It's very bright, it's easy to read, it tells you a lot of what's going on when it comes to your headlamp being on or headlight, battery level, your last trip, and your current pedal assist mode. I highly recommend that you turn off your pedal assist mode, especially when you're moving it around, because if you, the bike does have, for example, cruise control, right? And you want to make sure that you don't inadvertently turn the dial when you're just walking with the bike. So set it to 0. Now the bike does have a bell. I wish it was electronic, but you know what? I can deal with this. Now, there are a couple of things going on this side. So your controls for your throttle are found here. You have nice wrist support here, which is going to help you with fatigue, especially since this bike has so much range capabilities. You won't get confused here, but what I was finding is that if you're moving it around, it's very easy to inadvertently turn this, especially because you can see how wide this is here. So look at how thick this is. It's almost 2 fingers wide. So when I put my palm here, you notice it's unavoidable. You're gonna find that your at least 1 finger, you notice it goes over the actual throttle, the turn throttle, because of how it is. Now, I can try to push it all the way over here, and I don't have big hands. That's one thing that I would say from a design perspective, I wish it was a little bit different. Now, here you have all your controls, right? So you have your shifter, which is nice, it's integrated. And then I like how wide the steering for this bike is. When I'm riding this bike, it doesn't feel like I'm leaning forward. I feel like I'm sitting at the right posture level, and I don't find myself like crouching over. Keep in mind that this bike is going to support riders well over 6'5". All right, so this should give you another view to that shock, how it is integrated there. There's nothing for you to adjust really, but just wanted to show you how you have kind of like a bolt that goes on the very bottom there. You notice how you have the suspension there, and that's what gives you that really great ride when you're riding this bike. Now the brakes for this bike are incredibly responsive, partly due to the hydraulic system, but also what I like is how quiet they are. There's no rattling, there's no noise, there's no rubbing noise taking place. The front and the rear disc system are absolutely superb. Now the last shot I wanted to give you was the actual rear LED, how nicely that lights up, and again, it's going to make you very visible at night.
All right, guys, so today we're taking a look at the MagicCyle Deer. Very fortunate and grateful to have this bike prior to release, and we've been testing this out. And yes, we're kind of electric bike and scooter crazy, because even during the winter here in Chicago, we are still biking. All you got to do is wear a warm vest and some gloves and you're good to go. Keep in mind that this bike has power. And not only that, but it also has a great suspension system, which really sets this bike apart. Let's talk about the specs. So first of all, if you're a rider anywhere between 5'9" and 6'6", and up to total weight of 400 pounds, you heard that right. This bike has a carrying capacity or load capacity of 400 pounds. You're gonna be able to use the Deer. It's considered the SUV of bikes, and that's because it has not only a front fork suspension, hydraulic suspension system, but it also has a rear suspension system. And that's kind of right here behind the pedals right here. You're gonna notice that there is kind of like a triangle design there, and there's a suspension system in the back that makes this bike incredibly comfortable to ride, especially in long distances. Now, this is a 7-speed Shimano system, 7-speed, and it has up to an 80-mile range. Now, obviously that's going to vary based on your weight. It's going to vary on the terrain and how much pedal assist versus electric you're using. But nevertheless, 80-mile plus range is pretty spectacular
for a bike like this. Now, in addition to the fantastic suspension system, you have 26-inch by 4-inch wide Kenda puncture-resistant tires. They're going to give you a really comfortable ride. They have a great grippy tread to them, which you can see I'm riding it here in Chicago, pedaling, and haven't had any kind of slipping issues whatsoever. I'm going to switch to electric so I don't run out of breath. We've been, again, talking about the 7-speed Shimano system here. It allows you to switch really easily. So on this side, I have my shifting system, and then I also have my throttle. So you basically have a real nice, I would say, wrist support, right? Almost like a leatherette that you have right here. And then you have a twist throttle. You do have hydraulic brakes as well, so everything on this bike is hydraulic, both the suspension and the brake system. You have one of the cleanest, brightest displays that I have seen on a bike. This thing is super clear. I want to see if I can get that in the shot, where you can actually see, you know, my speed right there, all the information. Really, really nice, rich display. And again, it is a multicolor display, which I'm really digging. In addition to that, you basically have, on this side, you have a bell. You then also have your pedal assist modes, which you can adjust here, and we're going to go through them shortly. You have your brakes, which are on each side, left and right side. You have your front and your back. And in the front, you can see that you have your adjustable hydraulic fork. The tires on this thing are wide, as we mentioned, and the tires, combined with the suspension that this bike has, gives you a super duper comfortable ride. I'm telling you, really am loving the ride. And then with the hydraulic brake system, it's, again, just a delight to ride. Very, very smooth. And the power to pedal, you know, I would say energy, like the pedal assist that kicks in, is really, really nice. It doesn't feel jerky at all. I'm going to switch to maybe a pedal assist version 2 or level 2 right now so we can get a little bit faster. Let me go ahead and do that. And, you know, what I'll say also about this bike is that I really also appreciate the color. You know, we haven't really had a lot of colorful bikes. I'm typically a gray-black guy, and I'm really loving the yellow. Now, this does come through in 2 modes. You have a step over and then a step through model. This is the one that we're reviewing today. I will tell you, for those of you, I'm 5'6", and I don't have a difficult time kind of getting over this bike because it is a beefy bike. It looks pretty substantial. It's very stocky, has a really nice look to it. It's a tough bike, but I didn't have any issues getting on or getting off of this as of yet, despite the fact that the height is there. The saddle itself is a very wide saddle, has great, again, I would say tush support, if that's a technical term. And overall, you know, just overall, my experience getting on, getting off, and just riding it has been really positive. Now let's talk about pedal assist. So this is pedal assist 7, and right now it's clocking at around 15 miles an hour. Now keep in mind that while it is snowing over here, and right now it's bumped up to 23 miles an hour. That was pretty fast, and it was really no effort. I'm telling you, it's a very comfortable, both human and, I would say, electric combination, right? Really nice. But I am at least clocking on the system 21 miles an hour, and it's effortless. All right, so let's see how quickly can I get to top speed on this. I'm going to go ahead and start pedaling, almost at 4 miles or less an hour. We're going to pedal. I have it on the hardest gear, right? And we're right now at 17, 18, 20, 22, 23. And right when I hit 23, I can feel that the bike is contributing less power, and I'm providing a little bit more power. So the electric, kind of like the governor that governs the speed, kicks in. But that's not bad. That kicked in really, really fast. Now the controls are really easy to access on this bike, and one of the things that I'll highlight, and it's probably my first negative of the bike, but there's a lot of positives, is the actual control cluster here on the side. One of the things that I'm noticing is that there's an information display button here that allows you to control like the different display points that's happening on the screen. And then you have your plus and your minus right here. So I'm getting confused as I'm pressing the buttons to go up and down all the time. Now what I'm referring to is as I hit pedal assist 2 up or pedal assist down, sometimes I'm hitting that the middle button, and all it's doing is just changing the information display. So I wish that was maybe all the way in the bottom, and that the plus and the minus were right next to each other. You do have a power button right here, and as I mentioned, you do have a bell that you can use to just notify folks that you're on your way. It does have a front-facing LED, which is really bright, and it has, I would say, worry-free fenders that you don't have to worry about rust. They're plastic, and the bike in general is just very quiet, very quiet. What we're going to be doing next is we're going to be doing a speed test, right? We're going to see, is the speed that's showing on the display of 22, 23 miles per hour accurate? We'll check that now shortly. All right, guys, now before we actually go through our speed test, one of the things I wanted to highlight that is very nice about this bike, and it's probably one of the first bikes that we've seen that does this, is that it does have cruise control. So right now, I'm not hitting the throttle, and this thing is cruising at 21 miles an hour. Love it. All right, now here we're gonna do a speed test. I'm gonna have pedal assist 7, full throttle. We're gonna see if we can exceed anything above 21 or 22 miles an hour. Right now, I'm hitting 23.2, 21, and I can feel the governor kick in immediately, slowing me down a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can pedal with the throttle at the same time, see if I can pick that up any. So it's right now 24, 24.1, 24.1, and it says 22 on the speedometer there. So it looks like we're just a couple miles off, but definitely if you're just going 100% electric, it does have that speed control that prevents you from going any faster for this class of bike. Now the next thing we're going to do is test the suspension in this nature park. It's a park I like going through. Bumpy, should give us a good sense of what's going on with the suspension. And then it's also going to give us a sense of how well these tires are going to do. Again, these tires, the Kenda tires, I actually love them. They're fantastic tires. My experience has been really positive with these in snow and in dirt terrain. You know, this bike will do really, really well given the suspension in some of those environments that, you know, you may run into where it is gravel or even uneven dirt terrain. So that's going to be something that you would be able to enjoy. Hey guys. Now the bike is super quiet. You basically have bike-like noises. Really, the gear system is very smooth and changes nicely. The saddle I mentioned is fantastic. Overall, my posture is good too, so I'm not leaning forward too much. I just feel really good in this bike, and definitely, you know, not only is it an SUV, but this is definitely one of those cruiser bikes that you can ride for long distances, even in the cold like it is today. Now the bike does have a removable battery. It has some keys that you can use to take off the battery, but the keys are not needed to actually use the power portion of the bike, only to remove the battery. And once again, if you have extinguished the fuel cell completely, you can only use, for example, human power to get this thing going. So that's something that you can do. So you should be fine there. All right, guys, so what is my opinion of the Deer from MagicCyle? This is a definite double thumbs up buy. In my book, great suspension, great power, also premium again parts. Everything on this just works so well. Quiet, no rattle, nice ride, good power distribution when it comes to human and then power assist through the pedal assist modes, especially with those 7 power assist modes. And then all the controls are so easy to access. So definitely a thumbs up, guys.
So guys, that wraps up our review. See you in the next video.